DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We are joined now by Marcelo Balboa, MLS commentator for Apple TV. You remember him from playing in 3 World Cups and a few more things than that. Marcelo, getting ready for this interview. I remembered a few things about your playing career. I went back and watched some video. I got to say, that's pretty old, glitchy video, but the YouTube of you scoring the goal of the year in 2000, that was fairly awesome. When's the last time you
had
threw
you had to break out the VHS tape then?
Yeah, right. When's the last time you threw your body with reckless abandon a ball and attempted a bicycle kick? Because that one was awesome.
Oh God! Last year, I do it every year. For some reason, the kids want me to do it at the camp.
Okay.
So I try. I don't succeed all the time, but I try to throw myself at least 2 inches off the ground to get a bicycle kick, so the kids are happy.
Nice.
Looking at your background and doing some research on you in the last 24 hours, I would assume that you have a fairly decent relationship with Pablo Mastroianni. Is that accurate?
I do, yes. And Brian Dunseth and a few other guys that live in Utah.
So Pablo comes on our show most Fridays during the season. And, I've been doing this for a long time. DJ and I both have. And I am fascinated by his interviews and the way he speaks in terms of coaching men and all the things that go into it. And the word coaching these days pretty much has as many definitions as you want to put out there. And what do you think of him? Because he seems to be so introspective and philosophical. And when we talk, it's like sometimes we barely even talk about soccer, but we're talking about all these things related to people. What do you think of him as a leader of men?
Nah, listen, Pablo was the captain. Pablo is a guy who led by example, and he is more of a philosopher, we'll say, when it comes to his coaching. And at this level, it's not Pablo's coaching. I think that people look at as managing of men.
Right.
'Cause you have to manage the players when they're on the field. You have to learn to identify personalities, who you can bite into, who you can't, who you got to pull in tight, who's okay being a little bit further away. So I think the managing of men is where Pablo succeeds because he's been on the field. He's the experience he's had playing in a World Cup, playing in MLS, that, you learn. Listen, he struggled here a little bit, but it's all the process of learning as a person who you are, how to manage people, and the people that can identify their strengths and weaknesses are the people that are usually successful at coaching.
He has to identify strengths and weaknesses of a lot of players because for one reason or another, RSL is turning the roster over at a stunning rate. And some of the things they control and some of the things they don't control. But nonetheless, there's a whole new set of personalities and a whole new set of talent this year. What do you think of their offseason and the way the club looks now?
Listen, every club has to do that eventually. Colorado's done that quite a few times. We're looking at LA Galaxy switching up and had to get rid of some players. We've seen the LAFC players and teams. How many players have they switched in and out just during the off season? So listen, we all go through those times and tribulations of insecurity in our clubs. But again, it's getting the job done. Anybody in MLS at any point can win an MLS Cup. Anybody in MLS could win a game. There's that much parity in this league that Now, listen, you're probably missing one or two key pieces, like a lot of teams are. Now the question is, can you find those pieces? Because everybody's always the biggest thing in soccer is, can you find a guy that can score goals? That's why they get paid the big bucks. Can you find a guy like Lucho Acosta that just went to Dallas that can spray balls and break lines? There's key positions, so every team has to find that player that can just bring everything together. And I think Salt Lake, they've had a lot of great runs. They've had success. But eventually you've got to tweak it a little bit. And I think that's kind of where RSL is. They are a very good team. They're in a position now where they're just trying to fill in the last 2 or 3 puzzle pieces, we'll say, to take them to the top and to be competitive to win an MLS Cup.
From your experience, under these situations and circumstances when guys are brought together, how long do you usually think that they need to gel before whatever peak they're going to hit, they hit it?
Listen, I'll go. Let's start with just the physical side. The fitness side, it'll take you probably 6 to 7 games to get you fully fit, okay? I would say it would probably take about 10 to 12 games to understand each other, new players coming in, where they like to receive the ball, what kind of movements they make, their tendencies, their strengths and weaknesses. So usually you can tell a team where they're at after about 8 to 10 games. You can kind of get a feel for who they are and what they are.
I get all of that, and yet I couldn't help watch 1 or 2 games into the season and watch what's happening in San Jose. It's pretty simple math, right? 6 teams in the West are going to miss the playoffs. Who are they?
Yeah.
And in the past, it's been 5, but there's an expansion team in San Diego, so now 6 teams are going to miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
And usually, San Jose has been one of those teams. I think they missed the playoffs 9 times in 12 years. Well, Bruce Arena doesn't have a history of missing the playoffs. And Bruce Arena has got his team playing well in the first 2 games out of the gate, and I know it's only 2 games. But nonetheless, I'm figuring, he's in. So who's out? Do you have a feel for that? Or just to that timeline you just talked about, get back to you in May and make some guesses then?
But listen, here's the deal. This summer, the transfer window opens. Mm-hmm. Imagine when San Diego brings in De Bruyne. Does that put them in a playoff position, having a player like that with Chucky Lozano, De La Torre, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can say now you look at it, and yes, Bruce has done a great job. And when Bruce takes a job, we all know that when he takes a job, it's very simple. You're going to have to spend money because Bruce is not going to take a job where he's not going to spend money. And Bruce brought in 5 or 6 key pieces that he knew from New England. He brought in some coaches. Now, all of a sudden, San Jose is not looking like the bottom of the table team anymore. You know what I mean? So that's what you get when you hire Bruce Arena. You get that kind of mentality. You get that kind of allure, we'll say, when he comes in, that this is my expectations. This is what we're going to do. Now, are you willing to do it? And if you're not, then I'll find somebody else that will. So who's going to make the playoffs in the West? That I got to be honest with you, that's a tough one because right now, if you look at the table, Houston, just imagine this, Houston, L.A., Kansas City, Seattle, St. Louis, and Colorado are all out of the playoffs right now. Do you think that's going to stay like that?
No, I don't.
L.A. is going to go spend money. Matter of time. Seattle, because they're in Champions League, they're dividing their squads up on a Saturday, Wednesday. They're fatigued. They're going to move towards the top. I mean, when you look at this table, you say to yourself, at any point, anybody can beat anybody. So can you say right now who's not going to make the playoffs? I would say right now everybody still has a shot to make the playoffs. The key will be what you do during the transfer window or what trades you make between now and All-Star break to make your team better.
Yeah, for sure. I think we've seen that. As we approach late spring, early summer around here, the weather gets a lot better.
Yeah.
The stadium is electric. I live fairly close to it, and I know don't go down that way on game nights. It'll be packed. You'll be stuck in traffic, whatever it is. So it's a real beautiful setting with the mountains. No offense to our friends over in Colorado, but I think here is more beautiful.
Picking a fight. Look at you pick a fight.
I can't. You know what? I'm going to stay neutral because I'm doing the game this weekend. So I will say you're beautiful. Your stadium is beautiful. Your fans are electric. The scenery from the booth of the mountains in the background, it's fantastic. The lights you guys put in to make it look really cool when someone scores a goal. So, I was not part of the bigger rivalry because I retired by then, but I felt it as a broadcaster when we did the local TV. So, but you got to give props where a stadium is nicely put with the background and the scenery. You guys did a nice job.
So I'm a little concerned about if they change the calendar and play in the winter. What do you think about that?
I think we could. I think we could be in for, and I think I'll give you an example. The other day when Colorado played in the Champions League Cup here at home against LAFC, 0 degrees. It was a slower game. It was very difficult for the players. to play in that cold. I think it'll benefit us in a lot of ways. The fact that when you're talking about being on the same transfer window, being able to bring players in and be able to do things, a little break in the summer. So I think there's a lot of advantages, but I also think that, in Colorado, Seattle, you're going to get a lot of rain, but let's go to the East Coast, New York, Boston. There could be a lot of snow. There could be a lot of games played in very inclement weather, we'll say.
I was in the post-game press conference last year after the snow game. The orange ball came out. RSL scores, 3 times. LAFC, their players and coach, they were really upset afterwards. Yeah. And I don't blame them because you can't train for that. I grew up in San Diego. You played at San Diego State. Exactly. You can't train for that. You can't prepare for it. I get why they were upset. But it's like, if the league votes for this, well, there's teams in Salt Lake and Denver, Kansas City. Yeah. That was a cold MLS Cup. RSL fans are still bitter out playing on the ice there. But what are you supposed to do? It's December in Kansas City. So I agree with you. I'm not going to disagree with you. I'll go back to that game. I think that game should have been canceled because the ball was not rolling anymore. And when the ball stops rolling, you've got to lift it and clip it. When it gets to that point, you've got to stop a game. Plus, you got to remember that. I mean, are you worried about getting the game in? Or are you worried about the health of these young men and these men that are playing soccer out there? Because there's no cleat in the world that's going to help you in hard ground, icy hard ground. So I agree. I think I didn't like that. I thought it was a fun game to watch, but I thought they were going to stop it at halftime or wait to see if they could clear the snow to make it a little bit better, to better playing conditions.
I'm a little older than Pablo, but as luck would have it, we grew up about 2 miles apart and went to the same high school. So
there you go.
In Phoenix. So we joke about it. And do you have any dirt on him that I could spill when he comes on?
I would never give you dirt on Pablo. And you know what it is? It always comes back to bite you in the ass. So I'm gonna pass on the Pablo thing. But yes, we do have a few good stories. But yeah,
discretion is the better part of valor, right there. Wise decision. All right, we'll leave you with a more traditional soccer question to deal with rather than that.
All right.
Messi is obviously a rock star wherever he goes. The hype.
Yes.
I mean, he's not coming to Utah. The fact that RSL got to open the season in a standalone game, it was a fantastic experience. But long term, what's the impact of him on the league? What's the impact of the World Cup being here in another year on the league? Because, we started this joking about, your bicycle kick, which was an awesome moment, right? The league has come so far from them with the facilities, with the money they spend, the players they bring in. Is there going to be a big league forward? Is there going to be continued to be growth, but more in a straight line trajectory? What do you think happens, given the fact they got Messi now and they got the World Cup next year?
Listen, Messi's impact is when we can go back to when David Beckham came here. That was a massive, massive shot for us all over the world, that people understood that David Beckham was coming to MLS, was going to play for the Galaxy. And then you get someone like Messi. Now, there's not one part of the world you go to where you don't see a Messi jersey or a Messi jersey is not being sold. So, and it's a Miami jersey. It's an MLS jersey. He's a World Cup champion. He's opened doors for other guys to want to come here. So the impact has just been huge, okay? And we all know that. So now bringing the World Cup is even going to highlight it more, because in '94, no one had expectations of us. If everybody remembers '94, the expectations was like, we're hosting the World Cup. Let's hope the U.S. can get out of the group with Colombia, with Romania and Switzerland. You know what I mean? Nobody really gave us a chance, and we opened a lot of people's eyes. From that day, think of everything that's happened. From '94 with MLS, the players that have come here, our players, all of our national team playing in Europe, players are winning Champions League. So I think this is a coming out party for us to show that how much we've grown, how competitive we are, and that we can play with anybody in the world. So I think that, and everybody, think about it. This summer, The World Cup of Clubs is coming here. They're talking about playing other tournaments here. We played Copa America here. Everybody wants to come to the U.S. and play because of our facilities and our stadiums. So that didn't happen 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and it's happening now. We have our own specific, people say entertainment, specific stadiums. It's entertainment because soccer is entertainment. You can put a concert. So, listen, this is just going to show how much we've grown in 30 years in soccer here in the United States.
Marcelo, we appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for joining us, and good luck this season. Enjoy it.
Well, we'll see you guys this weekend. We got you guys and San Diego, so we look forward to seeing you guys at the stadium.
All right. Thanks, Marcelo. We appreciate it.
Guys, take care.
Marcelo Balboa, MLS commentator for Apple TV in San Diego. New expansion team will be in town. They have put together a pair of shutouts to open. And for a team in San Diego, the best thing you can do is beat an LA team. And they did that in the opener, beating the Galaxy, who are shorthanded. So a lot of question marks about them. They had an injury with their star player.
I like what he said about the facilities in the U.S. and the stadiums and that type of thing, because that's part of the fan experience. And the fans want to have a good experience each time they go, no matter what it is. Concert, game, whatever. Carnival, you name it. Everybody wants to have a good experience, and we do have something special here that gives the fans a good experience. And he talked about concerts. I've seen multiple concerts at the stadium, and it's great.
I hate to praise Arizona and pump you up anymore, but they did it right there, and Vegas copied it, and it's got to be the way anyone who builds a stadium going forward. The days of having dirt and grass on the floor have to be gone. What they've done with the fields on trays, which, going back to Marcelo's point, I think the first time that was tried was with the Silverdome, and it was around the 94 World Cup, and they had a field that they could roll in and out. There was natural grass there, and that was a huge step forward for technology. But if you're going to put concerts on grass fields, you're always going to kill the grass. And if you put it even on the turf fields, it compacts those rubberized pellets. Roll the field in, roll it out, have the concrete floor. If as taxpayers, we're going to put all this money into these stadiums, which apparently we're going to do.
And I'm a taxpayer.
Right? Have it be multi-purpose, multi-event.
I mean, I don't pay as much taxes as you do.
Nice.
But I do.
Actually,
I pay more than Chicho.
I think you might. It's pretty close.
So, if you add it all. No, that's not me. You're including her.
Yes, I am.
But that's not me.
The Kinahan family.
Right.
You file jointly. Never mind.
Oh, I blow you away. Actually, she does it. I saw a thing, a video.
Yeah.
Guy says, how can I possibly have an affair? I'm married.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to have an affair, my wife would have to set it up. She'd have to schedule it. And then she'd have to remind me that it's time to go to your affair. There's no way I can do all that. And I thought, he's exactly right.
Is this some comedian stand-up routine?
It was just some guy.
Yeah, okay.
It was a random guy.
Right.
I don't think he was a comedian, but I thought about it, and I showed it to her. I said, you're exactly right. Yesterday, a classic example. It's 1:00. I get a text. Hey, you got a reminder, you got a dentist appointment today at 2:00. I had totally forgot. It was not even on my radar whatsoever.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. The Utah Jazz were beaten by the worst team in the NBA. There's a message in all of that, and we will get to it next. Stay with us right here on The Zone.
And now, a look at traffic from the KSL Traffic Center.
We've got a crash on I-15 northbound at the Kaysville Ponds, blocking 2 right lanes, backing traffic all the way back up into Farmington. Another crash westbound I-80 at the top of the on-ramp from the quarry in Parleys Canyon. That ramp is closed and the right lane is blocked. Want to remind you that it's time to try UTA. Less stress, no traffic, and more U-time. Plan your trip at rideuta.com with your KSL traffic update. I'm Christian Esparza here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Josh Grant, Utah Ute legend, joining us right now on JJ and Alex.
The first thing is this is a basketball school. It's changed. Everybody thinks it's a football school, but the University of Utah is a basketball school. We have just played so poorly over the last 20 years that people forgot that. We need to be competing with the football program for the attention of our own fan base. There's no way that we can have such a good fan base at football, and then you go up to a basketball game and you got 3,000 people there. Back when we actually had a good product here, we would play the worst team in the conference, and Huntsman Center was full. And the customers are always right, and in this case, the customers are the fans. And if fans aren't coming, you're doing something wrong.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
One of the coolest stations in the world.
Utah's highest rated, most listened to sports radio show for over 20 years.
Everyone's listening.
This is DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Join Hans and Scotty live Friday from noon to 3 at Bar W Beef, the new state-of-the-art retail butcher shop supporting Utah farmers and ethical farming practices, all at supermarket prices. That's Bar W Beef, only in Nephi.
And if there's one thing I stand for, it's ethical farming practices.
There you go. The Utah Jazz did it. And they lost to the worst team in the NBA. The Wizards have been running 30th all year long. Don't you have to give the Jazz credit for tanking seriously?
I'm proud of my guys.
Yeah? The way they sat everybody?
Yeah, even
Markin and
George.
sat. Yeah, no, even Keontae George. And they said illness, so maybe he did come down with something. Because usually he's been playing in these games.
Yeah, but this was too important.
They couldn't risk him having one of those 30-point games that he seems to rip off every couple of weeks.
Yeah, now Juzang, you can argue, took his place. Mm-hmm. I understand that. I'm with you on that, if you think along those lines. But why take a chance? Yes. You literally have 20 games to go. I think that's exactly what they've got. And you've got to lose minimum
20. I'm taking it seriously. Okay. Listen, there's no way around it. It sucks.
They're not going to lose 20.
It's way more fun when they're out there trying to win and battling for a playoff spot, but they're miles away from that, and they're not going to improve their odds of drafting number 1 and getting Cooper Flagg, because those are the same where you're 1, 2, or 3, and they're sitting in 3 right now. But whether you fall to 5, 6, or 7, that could be a big deal.
That's devastating.
I know. So if you're at 3, you can fall to 7. If they somehow end up with a worse record than the Hornets, and it's close now, it's a half-game difference.
Well, now Hornets are breathing down our necks.
Then you can only fall till 6, right? So,
and the Hornets have more legitimate injuries, but they've got to do it. And
what were you going to say with 20? Because I think people do want to know what you're thinking there. 17?
Yes.
That was the number, 17.
I think they got to go 3-17. And 20 games, that's like tomorrow, basically. You've come this far. You have got to finish and seal the deal. And it stinks, and it is counterproductive to everything we as sports fans hold dear. When we turn on the TV, when we go to a game, we want to see, it doesn't matter. The gender, age, nothing matters. We want to see balling out and competing. I get that. You are getting that. You're just not getting it at the higher level, because watching that game, these guys who played, every one of them were competing and balling out. They're just not the mainstays. But you've got enough to keep your interest. But maybe I'm skewed because I never viewed a good time based on the final score. Very rarely. And so I understand that's not the way most folks are wired. But I actually was entertained in that game. I went out with a friend for dinner and then came back and watched the replay. Mm-hmm. So I knew what was going to happen, but I feel obligated.
But you can watch games differently when you do that. Yeah. When you know the outcome, you can watch for
and
specific
I felt like
stuff.
I've got to do it for work purposes, so I can come in here and be educated on what happened. And Collier going to the line, his aggressiveness. He went to the line 9 times. His aggressive, and so Collier goes and he has 19, 6, and 6 with rebounds and assists. And nobody's really batting an eyelash.
No.
That's a good sign.
It's a good sign.
Yes.
It is a good sign.
Right.
And I do think your point on free throws is well taken, because when you look at the best teams and when you look at the best players, they shoot a lot of free throws and everybody complains about it. Jazz fans complained when Harden was shooting a gazillion free throws and Houston was knocking out the Donovan Mitchell, one of the early Donovan Mitchell teams in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
And it sounded ridiculous.
Oh, that's when Donovan cussed on the way to the locker room, and then they
banned the okay, you can't walk in that quarter of the ring.
Like we were shocked that an NBA player said a swear word.
What?
Like, who cares? I'd prefer that. That meant it matters.
And Jazz fans complained about that, and that's ridiculous because nobody has shot more free throws in the history of the league than Karl Malone.
They changed the rules, that dumb thing where he would go through.
I know.
So they made a change on that.
Yes. But when Karl Malone retires, having shot the most free throws in the history of the NBA, this is what good players do.
Oh, those are right calls.
They get fouled, they get to the line, and they make them. And you can go through whatever good player you want. You know, Steph Curry has shot a bazillion free throws. It's just so every player needs to know that. That's an efficient way to score, and you got to find a way to get to the line and get your team in the bonus so that everybody's going to the line. Get the other guy in foul trouble so the best player has to sit down for a few more minutes. It's the game within the game. You got to play it.
I can argue that I took 3, possibly 5 positives from the game.
5 positives.
Yeah.
This is so unlike
I've already
you.
named one.
I'm lightheaded. Yes, and what I would always guess on Collier. Development of the young guy.
19-6-6, and he goes to the line 9 times. And that's positive.
Filipowski.
Again.
23-13. And there are rebounds that fall in your lap. They're rebounds you have to go get.
Yeah.
He went and got 5 offensive rebounds.
That's 2.
That's 2. Are you going with Oscar? Because he had 4 offensive rebounds?
I put that at 5.
That was number 5.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure what it means.
But there are guys who played their way into the league with one skill.
Yeah.
And if you are going to be a relentless rebounder, coach is going to love you because more possessions equals more points.
Right. So that's
3. I've got 1, 2, and 5. What did you list as 3? Did you go with Juzang?
4.
Okay. I mean, he went 27 and 7.
You can't ignore that.
10 of 15. Well, what I liked about his game is the 5 of 9 from 3. We know he can catch and shoot. We've seen him do that. So that he has a night, especially against a bad team that's sitting a couple of guys.
I don't want to go crazy.
Right. But what got me is he's attacking the hoop. You're 5 of 6 inside the 3-point line. You know, there are 3-point shooters. You can look at their night and, they're 3 for 4, and then you look at what they did from 2, and that's it. It's 3 for 4. They didn't take one, or they're 3 for 5. They took one and they missed it. Anyone can get a bucket in transition. He had a drive on a closeout that was really impressive, and I thought he was going to get blocked, and he got the shot up off the glass and in. Which one? You had that as 3 or 4?
4.
So what would number 3 have been? I'll probably go. It doesn't jump out as you but just given where he's starting the race, I'm going to say Cody Williams.
Yes. So you got all 5.
12 points, 3 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, only 2 turnovers in 33 minutes. Shot the ball efficiently and made his 2 free throws. And for a guy who's just been so overmatched physically,
right.
He has a teenager's body, and he's not going to in 5 years. He may not have it in 2 or 3 years. We'll see how he develops.
Right.
He is going to some degree, put on some weight, get stronger.
So those are modest stats.
Mm-hmm. In a loss.
But they're stats that there's in virtually every category save blocks.
Right.
Literally every category except for blocks. And he played 33 minutes, and I called up his game log. That is the second most that he played. He played 37 back on the 12th of February, and that was in an overtime loss to Brooklyn. And he didn't. His stats, he was 2 of 10. They sucked.
Well, hopefully there's more playing time for him.
Yeah. Well, there's got to be. As long as he earns it. I mean, I'm not going to just hand it to him.
Except you're trying to lose games, so maybe this is the time
that's how he earns
it,
is the other guys sit.
Yeah.
And so, but even within the context, you still better earn it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to just give you 25 minutes just because I drafted you 9th or whatever it was, 10th, whichever spot he was drafted in. It's got to be earned, and he's got to show some aggressiveness. And I think, to me, he's been showing it a little bit. It's very small. It's small doses, so I'm not going crazy here by any stretch, and he's got a long, long way to go. There's no doubt about it. But if I look at that game, the number one most positive is that they lost.
John says, cheering for a team to lose to hopefully, in all caps, get a great pick, who may or may not pan out. Yeah, I guess it's the Gen X in me. It's just not a concept that makes any sense. On the flip side, we had a great boys-only family night out a couple weeks ago. You got to love the comp tickets. He's got a photo here. There's 6 of them at the game.
Cool.
And even if you can't get comp tickets right now, if you go on the secondary market, there are a lot of tickets available for under $20. You sit in the upper bowl, you got the big screen in front of you, you're at the game. And the funny thing is, for all the tanking stuff, the crowd of the game wants to win. And I've been to multiple games, they always want to win. And when they pull one off, the crowd goes nuts. Now, it may wreck their lottery odds, but nonetheless.
And I think, given your wherewithal, I think you ought to stand on a plaza every night and have 6 tickets. And you should give them away. Because I think you can buy them and not make it a dent. Because you blow me away in the financial aspect. You do. You make way more money than I do.
Now, I and your wife.
But I'm not talking about her. She stands on her own.
No, she doesn't.
She does too.
She stands.
You ever been around the old broad?
She stands right next to you, holding you up, propping up your sorry butt.
I had a guy, Glenn, you've met him.
Yeah.
He texted me, hey, happened to hear that thing where you said you had 2 or 3 wives. I know that's not true, but I know your wife does the work of 2 or 3 wives.
See? Glenn's a smart guy. He can assess the situation.
And don't forget the work of one old man, me.
Yeah. All right, DJ PK, we got tickets to give away to see Real Salt Lake. They're at home facing the new expansion team from San Diego, Game 3. We're going to give those away on the other side of this break. Stick around. We'll do that. We got Cole Bagley, Utah Hockey Club insider, coming up at 9:30. 4 contract extensions and a big game tonight in Detroit in the playoff race. We'll talk with Cole at 9:30 right here on The Zone.
And now, a look at traffic from the KSL Traffic Center.
Too many crashes to talk about, but be prepared for extra delays from the crashes, along with either wet or snowy roads across the Wasatch front and back. We've also got unusual delays on I-15 southbound through downtown Salt Lake City for some unknown reason, but plan accordingly. GoPave Utah has 4-leaf clover ratings for asphalt, concrete, paving, and stripping repairs. Schedule a free consultation today. GoPave Utah. That's gopavutah.com. gopavutah.com. With your KSL traffic update, I'm Christian Esparza here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Harlan has to nail this. He has to get it right. Who does he pick? Because Alex Jensen, if he wanted the job, that's the safe one. That's going to be popular. He's going to win the press conference. It's the safe pick. But he, I would guess, doesn't have a ton of confidence in Alex Jensen, or he would have hired him the first time.
My thought is, if you're going to get rid of Craig at that point, you better have a real good understanding of who your candidates are. Alex Jensen or Andre Miller. And I think it will be one of those two.
Or does he pick somebody that he thinks is going to win? I think he's in a really complex spot because he's got to get this right. Listen to all these people come on and say Alex Jensen is the dude. He's going to lose the press conference no matter what if he hires someone else. Give me a guy who's going to win. That's who Harlan should be hiring. Maybe that's Alex Jensen, maybe it's not, but that's who he needs to hire. He's in a weird spot.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. When it comes to the biggest moments in Utah sports history,
Say,
these guys have seen it all. This is DJ and PK. DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The John Watson Northern Utah High School Players of the Week are Cole Atwater from Davis High, Taylor Harvey from Bountiful High, and Bracken Saunders from Morgan High. Atwater was named 6A All-Tournament MVP while leading the Darts to the 6A State Championship. Harvey was named 5A MVP for her leading role in Bountiful's 5A Championship run. And Saunders picked up the 3A All-Tournament MVP honors as he powered the Trojans to the 3A State title. See why new and used car buyers give John Watson Chevrolet more 5-star reviews than any other Chevy dealer in Utah. John Watson Chevrolet, your 5-star Chevy dealer. All right, we promised Real Salt Lake tickets. Caller 12 right now, 801-575 wins a 4-pack of tickets. Saturday night, you can watch RSL and San Diego FC, the brand new club that's off to a good start with a couple of shutouts. 4 points out of a possible 6. They're playing Saturday night, America First Field. Caller 12 right now, 801-575 wins a 4-pack of tickets. All right, PK, we got more people weighing in on the Utah Jazz and losing. And Brian says that's a losing mentality if they are tanking. That bad management from the top on down. The Jazz won't get the top pick. They'll draft another player to add to this logjam. He goes on. There's more, but you get the.
If you have a log jam, that means it's good. That means you got a lot of talent.
And I do think they have talent. Now, they need more talent because they want to be a championship team, and I don't think they have championship talent.
They need high-end talent.
Right. And even though they're sitting there at 15 wins, honestly, it feels like they could be at 30 if they wanted to be. Now, can they get to 500 with this roster? Probably not. They're not as bad as they look. And so if they are tanking, they're tanking. I think there's 30 to 35 wins on this roster for sure. But your point, if you want to win a championship, well, great. You're miles away. How do you plan to bridge that gap?
I think that they have 2 years of tanking, this year and next year. Lose
games and try to get a game changer.
And then at that point, then you start to go for it as much as you can.
As Locke points out, a top 10 player, a top 20 player, a top 50 player, and then 5 competent role players around them.
I don't see anybody in Oklahoma City crying about it now.
They seem to have adapted.
Right.
The thing is, how long do you have to stay in it? What's the appropriate amount of time for a rebuild? And it's different in every sport. It's different league by league. In the NFL, it seems like it's 1 or 2 years.
Well, because
depending on a quarterback
free agency,
development,
there's so many moving parts, and that you need an offensive lineman becomes so critical. And like the Bears, they just got 2 of them. And we'll see what that does for them next year with Caleb Williams doing his thing and how much he progresses and all that stuff. Now the Jets, 14 years, whatever, that's ridiculous. I mean, but that's bad management.
Yep. That's mistakes along the way.
And
Lots
do we
of
think
them.
This team has bad management? We just told you that in 2020 at number, 27? Pritchard goes, and he's coming off the bench. Now, he had 40-some last night, and I think he had 43. That was great. But he's been getting better and better and better, and they've already won a title with him in the rotation. Now he's having a more prominent role. Derek White, who's a role player, also goes. So they have 2 role players go for 40-plus last night. Right? That's not who they are, but they're contributing. Well, Ainge is the guy he drafted Pritchard. I remember when they drafted him. I raised an eyebrow thinking, wow, man, I'm surprised he went that high. And a kid like Johnny Juzang goes undrafted, and you'd think if you look at Juzang and you look at Pritchard and say, who's going to be the NBA player, you go to Juzang, right? But Pritchard, in his role, Ainge saw something, so he's clearly got a track record of identifying talent. It's inarguable, and he's perfect? No one's perfect. We understand that. And you have to have confidence in the management. We brought up the Jets. Their management sucked. They've changed coaches. They've changed GMs. The ownership sucks. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, the jury's out on Ryan Smith and his ownership because as soon as he takes over, they decapitate the team. And they made that decision. He signs off on it. I have no reason to think he won't be an excellent owner, but he really hasn't been given an opportunity to, we're at the trade deadline here, and we need to go get player X, and he's going to make a difference. And does he spend the money and those types of things? That hasn't happened yet. I believe it will happen. and I believe he'll do it. So I believe the ownership will be fine. I believe the management will be fine. And you have to have that. That's the first thing. You want to build a baseball title team? Give me pitching and defense. I've got to have it. You want to build an NBA title contender? Give me great ownership. Give me great management. I've got to have that. And then you go from there. And obviously you need great players. But I think they already have that other stuff in order. Now they got to go out and get the great players, which is the hardest thing to do. I'm not downplaying that by any stretch.
Jazz have missed the playoffs twice. This will be 3 years in a row. Do you know the longest streaks in the NBA?
Currently or all time?
Currently. Rebuilding in this era under these rules.
What do we include with the play-in nonsense?
You've got to be in the first round. If you got to be in the 8. You got to be playing a best 4 of 7. That's the play-in isn't counted as the playoffs. There's one team they've been bad forever. There's one team.
Charlotte has sucked.
There it is. Charlotte's missed 8 years in a row. They've made mistakes.
Well, Jordan sucked as a manager.
Ownership is the kind of thing where you can really tell the tale over a longer period of time. Now they got brand new ownership.
I got to stop saying the word suck, man. I'm throwing it around like candy. Okay. So I got to back off that. Washington.
So Washington's missed 3 years in a row, and this will be 4.
And the Spurs have gone through a massive rebuild.
5 in a row, and this is going to be 6 with Wembanyama. And this hurts that he's missing the end of the season. I assume they've done enough right that streak stops next year, assuming Wembanyama is healthy. If he isn't,
healthy with
then
him and Castle and Fox, and they'll get some picks.
They should be. So they're going to 6. They're going to have the second longest streak. There's another team tied with them at 5.
And then New Orleans. Although they made the playoff a couple years back, I understand that.
They actually made it last year. They were out so fast you don't remember.
They've been
mediocre to poor.
But they've had bad luck.
With Zion getting hurt?
And Davis demanding to be let out.
Demanding the right.
I mean, that's kind of they can't really control that.
Detroit is at 5 in a row, and they're going to end that streak. Houston is at 4 in a row, and they're going to end that streak.
But I don't want those fans, unless you're 20 years old, complaining. Because you got titles.
Yeah, you do. But I think it just goes to show that you can have a well-run organization like the Spurs at 5. The Pistons and the Rockets at 4 and 5 are ending their streaks. So this will be 3 for the Jazz. Next year will be 4, and then it'll be time to end the streak. You'll be getting into the era where, okay, it takes that long to rebuild. You need several players.
The problem is they have bleeped it on the rebuild for 2 years.
Yes.
This is the first year.
Yes.
That they have gone a full commitment. And last night was the biggest commitment that I've seen.
They set their top 6 scorers. They have 6 guys averaging double figures in points. Not one of them played 1 minute.
Right.
That was the most they've sat. I mean, they sat 7 guys because Taylor Hendricks has been out all year.
Yeah. They made the commitment that I've been demanding to see. And I saw it.
And you need to see it 20 more times.
I'll throw in a couple of wins.
I had this discussion because we were talking a little bit about this yesterday, and there's a media member who probably needs to remain anonymous. They can put this out themselves if they want. And they said, why don't they just send Markin home to Finland? He's got kids. There's probably grandkids and aunts and uncles and stuff. They don't want to play him. They don't want to win. Just let him go. Send him home.
Because I think he can still work out here.
Yeah, he can.
And do all the things that he needs to do. I like when they put out the injury report and the announcers, he's still dealing with the back. No, he's not.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I understand.
Put the graphic up and just don't say the words. Don't say the words. Yeah. These are the 5 players out for this game.
What they ought to do is put up the stats of Flagg and Bailey and Harper. And Jokashunas over there with Illinois and some other guys that are on the come. Edgecombe. That's what they ought to be talking about. I mean, they can't, but that's what they ought to be talking about.
Don't put too many guys out who could be drafted 5th or 6th, okay? Nobody wants to think about that.
No.
I mean, and it can happen. I mean, they set the odds up. Yeah, there's nothing anyone can do about it if you're unlucky.
I feel strongly that it is going to come up just fine.
Okay.
That I'm not saying number 1.
Right now, if the season ends today where they're sitting, number 1, they have the 14% chance. It's the most you can have, right? Tied with Charlotte and Washington. But there is a 33% chance that they can draft 6th or 7th.
And I don't think they're going to.
Well, you got the odds on your side. There's a 2/3 chance they won't.
I feel really good. My ever-expanding gut is telling me that it is going to work out.
So your gut instinct gets better as the gut gets bigger?
I don't know about that.
Okay.
I'm just saying my gut is expanding.
I guess we'll find out if you're right about this.
What? Are you saying I'll get fatter?
No. If they come up 1 or 2 and you said your gut instinct is getting better.
No worse than 3.
It's very positive for you. I don't
No
think
worse than 3, man.
Now,
it's their time. It's going to happen.
And here's the difference if they catch Charlotte, for all the people who are agonizing. Right, I just told you, 33% chance of drafting 6th or 7th. If they catch Charlotte and the second worst record, they can't draft 7th, and it's a 20%, 1 in 5 chance of drafting 6th.
They're drafting in the top 3.
Move up, baby. Those odds aren't changing whether they're 1, 2, or 3. Those teams are all assigned identical odds for 1, 2, 3, the first, second, third, and fourth picks.
And they're going to get top 3.
Okay. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Coming up next, a respected member of the media on the national scene had a strong opinion about BYU. Are they really a Final Four team? We will get to that next. And Cole Bagley, our Utah Hockey Club insider, at 9:30. Are the RSL tickets gone, Chicho? They are gone. Thanks to everyone who called. DJ and PK, more next. Stay with us.